What inning are we currently in for the GME saga? We don't know where we are with the June deferral OPEX periods. We don't know where we are with the July OPEX period. We've seen a decent run up over the past few days, but we have not seen the volumetric move that we have seen in any prior successful OPEX movement. That leads to believe that this is not fully closed, at least my personal opinion. It also seems like that the prior June OPEX cycle could be deferring into the latter half of this week at the same time when the share dividend split is going to be released.
Absolutely. So pretty much, most of my days I spend hanging out on Girk's stream. Again, huge shout out to him. If you're already subscribe to him. He knows much more than we do. Anyways, that being said, Josh, so what's interesting is that there was someone that mentioned, and this is way above my head, but that with the July 4th holiday, there might have been an extra, like a whatever calendar. I don't think it was a trading day, but it was like a calendar day. The point is that for the June deferrals, you might be looking at a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday thing versus, the July OPEX where there was no deferral, which would be a Monday, Tuesday type thing. So in other words, today being Wednesday, theoretically, we should have seen the effects of the July OPEX. So one of the things I've really tried to understand is the difference between a synthetic share and a real share. And what I've come to understand is this is actually inaccurate. Again, as Girk notes, a share is a share is a share. But I do think that there's an interesting question of how long does it take to find the locate? And the process of trying to find the locate, that's where you it's not so much you have a synthetic share, rather I think you have a synthetic locate is the way I poorly grasps to think about it. Anyways, we've got another video we just did on that. Check it out. We kind of go into our thoughts on here. But anyways, going back to the topic I can. Check this thing out, whatever, right? So when you see these big volumetric moves, whatever, right, that indicates that something's happening. So like right here, you have very, very small volume. And yeah, the price is doing some stuff, whatever, right? But there's not really a lot of emphasis behind it. But when you have this right here would be an example of a short attack. This right here would be another example of it, where a lot of volume comes in on the sell side, and thus you see, the drop. Bam, bam again. You saw the same kind of thing play out today, right here-ish, again, kind of right there. And again, market mechanics, this is by no means my bag, so this is just me poorly paraphrasing what Girk said. I'm probably getting it half wrong anyways. But the concept, or this is how I think about it myself, is that when you see like this period right here, and then you kind of see like the same periods going over in here, what's really going on, or at least what is suspected is going on, is that you have them internalized. You want to say internalized, it would be like a settle or whatever, right? They're internalizing the order flow. And so essentially essentially buy orders are not being printed back to the lit exchange, meaning you're not seeing an effect on price. The interesting thing you see going on here too is that you also see the order book almost pause. And someone, I don't know who said it earlier today on the stream, had the really witty comment of calling it a synthetic stop, which I thought was hilarious for that. So whoever coined that term, hat tip to you, sir or ma'am. But anyways, Josh, this is kind of the takeaway on this front. Despite all of this going on, the stock still continues to creep up. So we are still closing higher than we closed before. If you're sitting in options, as I've said before, when you buy options, my attitude is do not be shy about paying for theta. I have never bought an option contract and said, I wish I had less time on that. No. I've said the opposite many times before, but never I've had too much theta. And so, for example, I'm still sitting in my June position for they're the options I got into for June. I'm still in that, and even if there's no OPEX, where you have a violent upside potential or you have a violent upside move, like I'm almost back to break even for where I am. So again, not too upset on that.
So another main thing that we are seeing now is we are not seeing the overall volume that we always see in every single OPEX period. What to me, what that signifies is that this is not an OPEX run. It just seems like the market's going up and GME's going with it. We're seeing a lot of buying go in. When we do see these volumetric moves to the downside, the buying is very quickly coming back up and the order book pretty much just freezes. And that is very bullish, I believe, going into the next few weeks. So what is going to happen if this June deferral OPEX period comes over this next week? And we've already been running up, plus the share dividend split that seems to be occurring. There is so many unknowns right now in this stock that it is very confusing to follow, but also extraordinarily interesting going into the next few weeks. What I've done is I did position myself fully for this OPEX. I had quite a bit of leaps that were a volume play that obviously have not really gone anywhere because we haven't seen any of these volatility spikes, but I matched that with a lot of at the money calls that I was going out to October. I've sold a few of those because they were pretty deeply in the money, and I have never once complained about taking profits, as there's almost always another time to enter the trade. So those ones are pretty much gone. BBBY, same thing. I had a lot of leaps and some at the monies. I've sold quite a few at the money, still holding the leaps because who knows what's going to happen in the future with these volatility plays.
You mentioned that to BBBY, not to get too focused on that, but again, BBY is kind of doing the
Well,
same
that's just what the
thing.
market's doing. I mean, when
Yeah,
the market's going up and they're kind of trickling on up with it.
yeah, but you still see kind of that same, whatever. Bobby continues to be a side hustle, and a very interesting one at that. Josh, the other thing I wanted to touch on too was that I think that if you have options become more approachable by, common retail. So don't get me wrong. Like, let's say you have like 100, or you've got a call on GME for 160 or whatever, right? Yeah, sure. If you're exercising, you're well heeled enough to exercise a $16,000 call option. Okay, great. You can use it to take delivery of it. But after the split, that's 160 will turn into a $40, and more importantly, you have four of them. And to exercise to grab enough cash together to exercise a $4,000 call, it's a little less obviously than exercising a $16,000 call. The reason I mention this is that think about the chart we just put up, and like I'm not even going to try to talk about the market mechanics because I just simply don't understand it. But I do get the fact that there are various ways you can jimmy with like the time aspect of it, where the orders, and it's not crime or anything like that, but you're basically delaying the orders and you're only letting them print at a time when it's more advantageous for you, the person who's doing the internalizing or doing the delays. And there's probably a crap ton of other ways to do it. But here's the key thing. If retail actually starts using option contracts as a way to take delivery of a stock, the thing in that is that you're able to completely bypass the market. That is the, I don't know the technical term, but you're able to bypass the market maker for the actual underlying and deal with the option market maker. And if you're using that, the option market maker, granted, they do have T+2 days, as I understand it, to deliver the shares, but there's none of these like, oh, we'll give you like a 30-day deferral just because, you asked for it. I mean, like, no. We're not playing that game. We're not playing that game. So one strategy I'd be very curious to see if retail actually picks up on, particularly if, if they're adamant they want to DRS shares or whatever, right? They want to make sure they have real shares or, just pick whatever silly thing people are talking about. The point is that like, if you go through, let's say tomorrow's going to be Thursday, and if you buy a GME call for $1, so you buy the right to buy GME for $1 times 100 things or whatever, right? You're basically like pre-buying the stock. And when you exercise that call option, because you have so little time left on it, there's very, very, very short amount of time, the market and the delta weight, excuse me, and the delta is so high on the call, you're basically forcing the option market maker to go into the market and buy shares and like pretty much everything that you're doing. And so now, assuming that you wanted to buy the stock in the first place,
exactly what the shorts do to drive us down.
yeah, and the thing is that when you could buy a fourth or whatever, right? The downside is you have to take delivery of 100 shares, okay? But that being said, if the 100 shares that you're going off of is now a quarter of what it is before, again, I say that's much more approachable. Look, I'm not trying to say like, again, like if Jimmy goes to $40 after the split or whatever, right? I'm not trying to say that $4,000 is a lot of money. No, it certainly is, but it's a hell of a lot less than 16,000. And if you want to use the shorts own weapons against them, what? Like here's what you go. And if you buy 0 DTEs that are basically like $1 with a maximum delta weight or whatever, right? I can't say. Of course, options are inherently risky. Let me be perfectly clear on that front. But if you do it in this particular manner as a delivery mechanism, it's a much more. If you want to call bullshit on the system by DRSing your shares, this is an excellent way to acquire shares because you're forcing the option market maker to deliver the shares, which is like a double kick in the nuts to them, I would argue. Anyways, again, of course, not for everyone, but very curious to see if that happens. The second thing I would be curious to see what happens is that if you just have more retail participation in the option chain. So in addition to what I just said before, if somebody just wants to make a bullish or even bearish bet on GME or whatever, right? Again, you've got a quarter of the entry price than it was before, particularly if you want to buy more theta, which I'm personally a big fan of myself, but again, you do you. So anyways, Josh, very curious to see if we have any knockoff effects on that. Very curious.
The main two things that I'm currently looking for is the June and July OPEX cycle. Why is it that we've had two straight OPEX cycles that have pretty much completely flopped? This one is going up along with the market, but other than that, we've had two in a row. To me, this is bumbling for something bigger under the surface. But if you want to check that out, check out this video that we did yesterday on the market mechanics behind it.